From the garage that sparked the global self-care movement, welcome to the Human Garage Experience, a podcast where we have unfiltered conversations on self-healing, consciousness, and optimizing your life with fascinating individuals changing the status quo. I'm your host, Garry Lineham, and I'm honored to have you here. Let's get down to it. Okay, Dorota, let's sync our bodies up for this. Let's cross our right foot over.
Yes.
Right hand underneath left armpit, left hand on top, head to the left, and body to the right. And we'll take 6 breaths together, 3 through the mouth. Breathe in. 2, 3, through the nose. 2, 3. Kind of like we're focused together.
Synchronizing how it feels. I could feel it.
It's amazing. It's like when I do this in interviews sometimes. I did this with a news reporter on Bloom Health. And we got so synced into the conversation that we forgot that there was a third person. She had a third person in the interview. She forgot that there's a third person in the interview.
Life.
So I'm really intrigued by your past. We're going to talk about some of the businesses that you've worked in, what you do today, and how emotions, specifically the emotions like the ones that people are dealing with, sadness, grief, shame, guilt, anger, anxiety, how to not only transmute them, but how to transform them into something that's useful.
Exactly.
So, and this is, people that are listening to this generally are going through some sort of emotional transformation. Mm-hmm. And FascialManeuvers gets those emotions out. Absolutely. But it doesn't necessarily transform them. Mm. So we're going to talk about that.
Yes, beautiful.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about where you're at today, because you're doing a lot with women's empowerment.
Yes.
And I want to hear a deeper sense of that. So for our audience who has no idea who you are, tell us a little bit about your background, because it's been so diverse. It's tech companies, it's Mind Valley, it's been all over. So who are you and how did this all come about?
I know, it's very diverse and it's very eclectic, but I started as an artist, believe it or not. My education is fine arts, applied arts, fine arts, and sort of my path started with working in a fashion industry, then music industry as a creative director, and then that's evolved into advertisement and then technology. And I spent 10 years working on digital technology, specifically in the wellness industry. So Mind Valley, Uptime, Ivy, really pioneering platforms in education, like personal growth education. And so that was sort of my career. And then something very unexpected happened, as it usually does. In parallel of that journey of really working with all those amazing teachers and speakers and people who Neil Donald Walsh, and who changed my life personally when I first read those books, I never thought myself to become teacher, first of all. This was never sort of my path. This was never something I envisioned for myself. I never envisioned to write a book. But I, as a child, suffered from a lot of physical conditions. I had a heart disease, I had an autoimmune bladder disease that both resulted in operations and constant medication, constant very heavy chronic pain, which enabled me from normal functioning. So here I was doing my career, and at the same time I was having very personal healing path. So exploring, all different methods in India, trying to find healers that would help me, all these spiritual people. And everything was resulting more and more in deception, because all I was meeting with was techniques and methods that simply didn't do anything. And so more I was actually diving into that world, more I was less I was believing that someone can help me and someone can cure me. And there was this really changing moment in my life when I went for my first Vipassana retreat. And it sounds very cheesy, but it was really like coming back home to myself. It was the first time when I actually started to meditate. And I had a full out-of-body experience that lasted around 10 days. So full sort of felt sense of all of everything that was going on inside of my body. And the sensory experience that started from sort of that moment was very different. So all my like psychic abilities opened up, that I numbed for many years. My whole family was psychic. My father is psychic, my grandparents, my grandparents. And so I was educated in the sort of knowledge of energy, of alchemy, etc. But it was something that I remember at that moment I rejected, and I closed to it because it was too intense. And in that moment, when that openness sort of and reconnection to my body happened, the disease started to heal on its own. And within weeks, there was no more pain, there was no more condition, everything just faded away. And I realized in that moment, I was 25, I'm 38 now, that if this was possible, that I could create such a huge change by myself in such a short period of time, after 8 years of trying everything, what else is possible? And so I really started to dive deeper into the world of emotion, the words of psychological regulation, the transgenerational traumas, and all different things that made me sick in the first place. And so having that career and this parallel sort of healing journey, at some point it just merged. And I was at that point working with Mindvalley as a creative director, leading all of the creative departments. And Vishen asked me, the founder of Mindvalley, hey, would you do a talk just in front of, right before some famous speaker? And he gave me just a few minutes. It was literally 4 minutes talk. And usually he wanted me to talk about marketing and Mindvalley and promotion. And I asked him, Vishen, can I please talk about something personal? Can I talk about self-love? Because this is what really helped me in my journey. And he was like, yes, sure, just go, just talk about whatever you want. But I did that talk, and that talk changed my life, because that talk went viral, and that talk brought a publishing house that asked me to write a book on self-love. That talk then put me on many international stages, from really not having that intention at all. It was almost like life came and said, now you have to teach this. You have to take this journey and everything you went through, everything you've learned for yourself, and you have to share it with other people. And slowly this started to sort of bring more students and more people interested in those practices. But most of all, I started to see phenomenal results with people that really were a confirmation that I have to just continue sharing this knowledge. And so I kept deepening my practice and kept sort of sharing with more and more people everything I've learned over those years. So this is, in shortcut, my journey, my career and my personal journey.
Well, when you say it that way and you lay your story out, it's very similar, parallel to mine. And I find that these things are brought upon us so that we have the ability to help people, because a lot of people help from a place of knowledge, but very few people help from a true place of embodiment. And then the ones who help from embodiment are still caught in it usually. So there's this balance where I can embody something. Like, I had so many things happen to me in my life, and I've been in so many different stages and parts that I have this ability to relate to people. I've been to prison, I've ran public companies, I've been public figure, I've been broke, I've been married, I've been divorced multiple times. And I have all of these felt experiences, so when someone tells me their story,
you can relate.
Yeah, I can relate, and they feel that relation. And really what transforms people is being understood.
Absolutely, and also really felt. You cannot feel something that you haven't felt before, right?
Right.
And going through that enables you to really feel deep pain of people, really feel what suffering means, really, like, I love working with women because all of my main disease was around women's health, and then rape, which also I experienced at one stage of my life. And so this, becomes almost a gift to then use it as a catalyzer for learning to build whatever is there that you want to build, but from that pain. That becomes very, very different.
Let me talk about that for a second. So you were able to alchemize the experience of rape.
It's fully neutralized.
Yeah, and you were able to alchemize that into something that is that driven you through your life.
Absolutely, because those experiences...
So what would happen if that situation didn't happen?
It's just...
Would you be the same person today?
Absolutely not. Which is why we cannot regret what happened, right?
Well, that's part of why I wanted to dig into this is because there's a victim mentality that goes along with people that experiences. I believe as a soul, I chose every experience, and I have like some very pointed experiences in those to recognize that when I was at the lowest times in my life, I know that I chose that.
Absolutely.
So if I didn't choose that, I wouldn't be where I am today. And then there's a lot of victimhood around being in that space and saying, no, this is all wrong and people are wrong and this is all wrong. But I literally wanted that experience. Do you believe that?
So I believe that before coming to this planet, we choose exactly what we want to learn to embody. Let's say it's about nothing external. It's about embodiment of certain quality, self-love, compassion, forgiveness, whatever that is. And then we choose our parents, we choose our siblings, we choose our environment in the way that the things has to be triggered so that we can get to that full embodiment. But what has to happen? If I tell you, if I am God and you ask me, please teach me about self-love, will I put on your path people who will love you unconditionally and make your life easy? No. I will make you go through a rejection. I will make you go through abandonment. Right. I will make you go through this horrible thing so that you can finally completely detach yourself from the perception of rejection that really doesn't exist, that you've created, and so you can truly learn that embodiment of self-love, right? And so every situation, everything that happens in our life has a gift hidden inside of it. And most of the planet, most of the people on the planet get stuck in the victim mentality when they are unable to recognize what actually is the gift, what actually is the learning, what actually is the opportunity, because they're stuck in expectation of how things should have been or what should have happened, and it didn't, right? But if we just change that perception and realize everything is for you, everything is teaching you right here, right now. If you don't see it, that means you are locked. Your perception is just limited in that moment. Can you expand it? Can you see what you are receiving, right? And even through such a situation as rape, in my case, I was very fortunate because I was drugged. So it wasn't violent rape. Mm-hmm. So I woke up and I didn't remember, right? It was still extremely violating. But I didn't remember, so I don't have a memory of someone beating me up, etc. Which is, I felt very lucky that it happened this way. But the shame that I had to experience afterwards, and the self-blame that I've got myself to that situation. What if I would have didn't go to that place that night? What if I didn't travel by myself through South America? What if and you try to change the reality, right? Mm-hmm. And people oftentimes, the shame is when we believe that if we would have got back in time, we would have done things differently. But that is not true. Because if I put you back in time and erase your memory of what you know today, you would have made exactly the same decision.
So part of this in my own journey was self-acceptance of my journey. like you said earlier, I had a free will when I was a soul. I chose, this is my belief system, and I know that you share this. I chose my parents, I chose my family, my situation. I chose the experiences, the big ones that I was gonna have along the way. Now, how I got to those experiences and what happened after that was my free will here.
Yes.
But I was going to have those experiences no matter what. And when I took 100% responsibility for every experience in my life and didn't blame anybody outside of me for anything, that's when my life changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, because we believe it's a specific person, but it's not about specific job, specific person, specific place. They're just playing this story that you need to go through. So if you're supposed to, like we said, experience rejection or abandonment or failure, doesn't matter which path you're going to choose, you're going to experience that, because this is what you have to go through in order to get to its opposite, right? In order to embody, in order to learn. And I love that because it's fully taking ownership and responsibility for what we create. And if you can do that, then there is no limitation.
So what would happen to the world around us that's currently there? Because the world around us is very judgmental about somebody. There's a perpetrator and there's a victim. And they're very judgmental. We got to save the victims, and the perpetrators are bad. From a consciousness point of view, the one who perpetrates is actually the one who pays the biggest price energetically in this world. The one who's the victim has the way out of it. So they made an agreement to do that to each other as souls so that they could have an experience. Now, that is a very spiritual way of looking at it, but from a practical way, the world doesn't think about it this way. They want to blame everybody for the way they feel, and this person should have done that, and that person should have done more. That's what the experience is. How did you come to this? And actually, when did you come to this? Because you're 35 right now, or 38.
38, yes.
Sorry, 35, you even look 29. So when did this transition happen for you? Was it an age thing for you, or?
I think it was progressive. It wasn't like a one big aha moment. It was really learning to own everything, to really take a responsibility. I do believe that one of the qualities I came here to embody is a compassion, big time, self-compassion, compassion for other people, but creation. And so I cannot become possibly a full creator, embodied creator, if I haven't been a destroyer and the oppressor myself, if I haven't owned that in me.
Thanks for watching and tuning in. These conversations have radically shifted my life, and I want you to experience those radical shifts too. Take these conversations and integrate them into your body by joining one of our fascial maneuver reset programs. Introduction to Fascial Maneuvers, 7-day reset or 28-day reset. We're going to put the links below. Take that cerebral knowledge and that experience that you're having right now and bring it into your life by resetting it in your body. These programs have radically shifted my life, and I know they'll radically shift yours. Don't wait another moment. Reset your life today.
And so I don't believe that you can ever attract the oppressor if you don't have an oppressor inside of you.
And that's the other one too. We get this about the latest buzzword is narcissist. And from my point of view is, including myself, all human beings are narcissists.
To a certain extent, right? Because we have that triangle, oppressor, victim, and then savior. And we just dance between.
And depending on where we are at space and time, we have to have gone to fully help people or to be conscious and make a difference in the world. We have to have had an experience in all those sides.
Absolutely. And then when you start to, most of people see the triangle externally. Someone else is oppressor, right? So someone else is the victim, because we are triggered by the victim. Victim has a very repulsing energy. When you see someone really in their victim, right? Energetically, when you're in the victim, you cannot. Your ability to give or to receive is completely blocked. So we are triggered by victim. We are triggered by the oppressor. But when you can realize that triangle is inside of you, that you've been your own oppressor and you've been your own victim and you've been your own savior, then whoa, okay. I can now take a responsibility and start shifting that energy. And then what you see by shifting this energy internally, your whole external environment that responds to your field, or it's just an extension of your field, shifts. And that's how you start to really create your reality. And so for me, to answer your question, it was really a progress, because there were so many things I didn't, it was hard to own, certain parts of me, certain shadows. But the more I was owning, one by one, shadow by shadow, more free I was becoming and more objective I was becoming to what was actually happening, and more I was capable to receive from life and create at the same time.
I spent a lot of my life trying to prove that I wasn't wrong and prove that other people were the problem. I mean, obsessively when I was younger, 20s and 30s for sure. I went through this journey where I drove myself literally crazy because everything was external to me. And I flipped the switch to today. If somebody is pushing a buggy and they snap at me and yell at me, I don't go, that's a weirdo. I go, what inside of me attracted that situation?
Exactly. And why do you need it right now?
And why do I need it right now? And sometimes it's to let me know where I am. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's also to remind me of who I was. Mm-hmm. And I get a lot of that too. Like, oh yeah, I used to be that person.
Yeah, this is who I am as well, right?
Yeah.
And I love, for me, it comes down to really simple philosophy. I am everything I think I am and everything I think I am not. Mm-hmm. Both. Because you do have all contrasts of every aspect of life within you. And depending on the moment, you embody this aspect or that aspect or that aspect. So in other words, it's impossible to really frame who you are. Yet we try.
Until you have the experiences.
Well, my belief is that we have within us the aspects of everything. All expression of every behavior. When people say I'm kind, I'm compassionate, but are there moments when you can be unkind and uncompassionate? Yes, mm-hmm. Right? So you realize the more you try to prove yourself on one side, one spectrum, the more you start to block its opposite.
Yes.
And the idea is to find neutrality between. That's when there is no pull into one or the other direction. There is no addiction to become one or attachment to be the other. Because you just find that perfect neutrality and you realize I have both extremities inside of me. I can be that in this moment and I can be that in this moment. And you become way more present with what actually just comes through you. And sometimes it's energy that is needed for you, and sometimes it's energy that is needed for the other. Mm-hmm. That you will, right? You will sort of have a certain behavior activated by their field that is interacting, that you respond to, mm-hmm. To show other people something about themselves, which is not necessarily who you are. But you reject, for example, someone. It's not necessarily you want to reject them, but you respond to their field. So you just embody the energy that is present without sort of trying to define yourself. Yeah. And I think people trying to define who they are, that creates the biggest problem. Because if you cannot think who you are and feel who you are at the same time, can you?
No.
Right. And so the moment we try to figure out with the mind who we are, we lose the connection to the body. We lose the connection to felt sense of self. And so we stop being ourselves in that moment. We start to think who we are. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes, we're on the same page 100%. But it's taken me a long time to get there. I'm 56, you're 38. At 38, I wasn't in your spot. At 38, I still thought that there was I still thought that there was this injustice because there's victims and oppressors. And I realized as I got older and as I bridged more into spiritual work that everybody picked their path. And I don't even want to disrupt their path. I used to stand up for everybody. Mm-hmm. And the more I stood up for them, the more trouble I got in. Yeah. Because I was taking away, who am I to take away their experience? They chose that experience. If they ask me, then I can lend a hand or experience or intervene in some way to help without taking away their experience. So that's part of the, my journey is letting people have their experience.
Yeah. I really truly believe we don't have to suffer to learn.
That's a one that I have been learning because at first I believed I had to suffer to learn. Like when would it stop? When does it stop being so painful to get this lesson? I know I'm going to get through it, but why is it always so painful? That was something I said 20 years ago.
What I discovered for myself is that the reason why we suffer is the reason for it is because we are completely disconnected.
Sure.
Transformation is happening all the time. You want it, you don't want it, it's happening because your soul signed up for it.
Well, suffering is self-imposed. Like pain is something that I experience through a situation, but suffering is something that I do to myself.
And it's a very important distinction. And so I believe suffering is your mind being trapped in expectation, your mind being trapped in your story, your mind being trapped in an identity. And so if you attach yourself too much to anything in this life, what has to happen? It has to break.
Yes.
It has to go away. So you will have to go through those breakup, divorces, failure, company to disrupt your attachment, to disrupt the idea you've created, concept you created of yourself. But if voluntarily you will learn from the beginning to not attach, to really see yourself through lenses of wholeness, and you will start to notice what is actually transforming through you by people, circumstances, everyone showing up in your field, and you will voluntarily support that rather than impose on yourself a different path. Then you don't have to suffer because you will learn the lesson before something extreme has to happen.
Yeah, there's one of the things that I've learned was at what level of pain do I want to acknowledge or make a change? Because I can make it at a level 1 or 2 or 3, but I had a habit of waiting till I was at a 9. And that's when I changed, when the pain of staying the same was greater than the pain of changing. And then I voluntarily would change, but it would be extreme. And this represented a lot of my life.
But how is it now?
It's completely different now. I accept, sometimes I get frustrated at why situations show up, but I accept that I'm there. And when I have interactions that I don't like, or I also accept that was part of it.
Yes. And
then I look back and I always find my responsibility, like even before I work with somebody, I find why that person's there for me. In other words, that's my self-responsibility. I'm not there to save or heal somebody. They're there to help me. So I assume that everything, including interactions I don't like, are there to show me something.
Yes, everything is in information about what is actually going on inside of you.
Yeah.
So people, in a way, reflect an aspect of you that you still need to integrate. So the trigger comes from the disintegrated parts.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if it's integrated, it won't trigger you. It will be there. There will be no reaction, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, it's like walking like, a spectrum of people that shows you, okay, this you still have to embody, and this you still have to embody, and this you have to own and integrate. And and when you will do it one by one, it becomes actually quite pleasurable.
It does. It actually becomes it's almost fun in the journey.
Because it's a play, exactly.
I say to myself quite often today, I say, oh, that's interesting. I wonder how I'm going to get through this one. So I treat it like a mystery, and then as the mystery unfolds, I get a better sense I get a better experience because I'm not trying to direct it. I used to be, this is the only way I see the world, and even if I pretended to be open, I was very directive of the way, deep down inside how I felt about it. And transforming this was again radical acceptance. You have done this. Let's talk about the emotions. Let's talk about what you do to transform those emotions, because we've talked about it, but what's the mechanics of that transformation?
So I feel like emotions is something that is the base of our existence, in the sense of like whatever you truly desire in life, it's to feel something, right?
Yeah.
It's to feel
We
good
came here to
about
feel.
you. Exactly. And so, but yet we are so afraid to feel. We think we feel, but we don't feel. We are, especially those hard emotions, shame, guilt, grief, anger, so suppressed. And when it's suppressed, that's when it becomes dangerous and it starts to control. And I see it as almost like a glass that body is the glass. And actually, it's often 80-90% of this glass is already full by everything that we suppressed. And so all the new emotion, which you will call intuition, spontaneous emotion, spontaneous sensation, feelings, they have to go and be filtered through that whole glass of accumulated suppressed emotion. And so what comes up at the end, it cannot be clear. Therefore, we cannot feel fully our intuition and the guidance. Because in order to do that, we have to empty the glass. And so what you do with your work is literally, for me, emptying the glass of everything that got stuck. But what interests me in my work is what happens after. What happens after the release? We have breath works, we have fascial releases, we have all sort of different methods to let this out. But what are emotions? They are pure energy. So what are we doing? We are emptying our glass. But then we oftentimes feel drained and tired for days because we left that energy out. And I don't believe that energy is just there to be released and wasted and left. I believe that energy is the very fuel for our creation.
So how do we transmute it?
The easiest way that comes from ancient tantric practices is to literally take that energy that you let's say released. You visualize it with the eye of your mind in front of you. Right? You see it as either black cloud or something. You will always see it in a certain way. Now, the place that has a perfect frequency to alchemize the emotions is the heart. Is the biggest brain of our body, right? And so we take that energy into the heart and we imagine like as if it was a washing machine. And we change it to its opposite. We purify it. We make it lose its negative charge.
Right.
And either we use that energy to charge our entire body, send it to a specific organ, send it to a specific chakra, or we can also send it to a specific intention, specific energetic address that has energetic entity. And so when you start to do it with every single day, with even, letting the anger out and then accumulating and sending, the level of energy that you get is uncomparable. Because now the energy is not waste. You reclaim it. You learn to use it. Why people are completely disconnected from their ability to create? Not because they don't have energy to create. It's because they invest their energy in the places that drains a lot of energy and there is no energy left for anything else. Attachment, protection, trying to protect yourself and separate, holding things at the distance. Judgment, massive drainer of the energy, working on things that are misaligned, forcing you to do things, drains energy. There are plenty of things we do, we waste that life force energy, and then burnout. We have no energy left, right? But if first step is to realizing where do you waste this energy, claim it back, and then every time you release that all stuck energy, that was negative, you learn to transmute it and alchemize it into its opposite and then send it, recharge your body, recharge your organ. If this is the only practice you will learn, I promise this was for me the most life-changing practice that I've learned to do.
The way you describe it, I would say that that's actually what I do without knowing that that's what I did. In order to get to where I'm at, I would take all the energy and then I bring it in. I would look at it, and I would look at it. I would imagine me standing next to it, and then I would wait for that energy to change. If you're already a coach, a practitioner, or an instructor of any kind, and you want to transform your life and help transform the lives of others, join our certified coaching program. The links are below. This is one of the most powerful things that you can do. Be a part of this worldwide movement that's transforming the world. Then take that step today. and I would just let it go where it needed to go. That was my
Amazing.
that was my uneducated process
Very
of doing it.
intuitive, right?
Yeah.
But amazing, because intuitively you learn. I think your mastery is that you really learn to listen to your body, to energy, to what is going on, and just intuitively to know that this is not something to get rid of, right? If you want to expand yourself, do you cut pieces of yourself or do
No.
you add?
Yeah.
You add, right? Yet the entire personal growth industry, remove this, let go of that.
It's a labeling of this is bad energy, this is good energy, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Energy is energy.
Exactly.
If I get rid of all the bad energy, I have nothing left for myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But imagine walking through a room where people fight or there is negative energy. What people do, I need to protect myself. Protect yourself from what?
Yeah.
If that energy is not used by them, take it. Alchemize it for them. Send it back. How many fights I dissolved? Random fights I was watching. I absorbed the energy. I alchemize it to harmony. I send it back. Zero charge. It's crazy how we can, help as well other people without them realizing.
I like what you said, because you're actually taking a personal practice and then you're giving back to the people around you.
Oh, yes. If it's your energy, you can keep it for yourself. You can choose to share it. But if you choose to absorb the energy of other people that they released, for example, if I do breathwork session, now I teach people to do this. But before, I would alchemize it for them and I would send it back to them, right? We talk about clearing the space. It's not about saging the space. It's about taking and alchemizing that energy, because there's a lot, especially if anger got released. We label anger as negative, but if you just feel the essence of anger, what's behind the word anger, it's active, it's dynamic, it's fire, it's power. This is the main energy that is used for creation, for shifting, for breaking things, for transforming things in our life. We need that energy. And oftentimes, actually, we create anger that is either needed for our own transformation, because anger has to push those blocks in our body, in certain organs, move them, or we create it for someone else, to say to someone something they need to hear, but with that energy, because only that energy is able to penetrate. So words has to, what the words we speak with, they carry that energy, and whatever charge we are going to give it, that is going to be influence and impact on the person.
So let's talk about the emotions and the opposites that you translate to. So let's talk about shame and anger. Let's just go through them.
So obviously the anger is interesting. So you don't exactly create the opposite by the word.
Right.
So what can be the opposite of anger? What you can transform it into? For example, creative action. Because anger, it's active energy, right? We cannot really release anger by sitting down. Anger has to be released by doing movement.
Yes.
So the same goes to the opposite. It has to be something that involves movement. So creative action, transformation, something that requires this kind of energy. And you can think about the project. I'm going to charge either myself with creative energy, creative action, transformation, whatever that is that matches the energy imprint, the essence. So grief, for example, sadness, they're passive energies. They don't have a lot of action. So you can transmute them into peace, into harmony, into balance, but also into inspiration, into something that the easiest way, because it's not one. The easiest way to understand it is to really try to feel the essence behind, and then what would be the equivalent in its positive of that essence. And you can choose whatever you need. And this is what I love about this, because normally when you do it, I ask the energy, that's my personal practice, I ask, what do you want to be transformed to? And I get the word right away, what is needed right now, what my body needs right now. And then
Yeah, because your body knows.
Exactly.
So we've got anger, what about shame?
So shame, again, shame is the energy that has the vibration of almost like wanting to disappear.
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
it's something that make you completely shrink. It's the energy that wants to hide you, but it's very much imprinted in regret. And so when we talk about shame, shame is particular for me because it's
Me too.
Yeah.
And so for me, shame was a regulator in how I showed up in community. So when I would transmute shame, shame is I didn't want to face people.
yeah,
So I would actually transmute it to facing people.
exactly. So expression.
So
right?
one of the things I did with shame is I talked about it. I talked about being sexually abused. I talked about things that I had done that I considered to be, or society considered to be, shameful. So I actually literally took those things and put them right out on the table. And then what I found is it translated to this unbelievable power and acceptance by people.
Yeah.
The thing that shame would do is take away acceptance. You're not accepted. And so I turned it into acceptance.
It's exactly on point what you said. It's about revealing. It's about expressing. It's about showing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, actually, there is this amazing exercise that I love doing with people. It's when you have to stand up and say, "I want the entire world to know that."
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And so that was my journey. You know, I wrote a piece in 2020 called "Privacy is My Disease," and I'm going to rewrite another version of it right now because I want to go deeper. And I told people at the time things that people didn't know about me publicly. And I remember the fear that I had before I hit the send key, because I knew it was going to be public. And I had this fear welling up inside me. It was like this ball of energy. And then I hit send. And I still had no idea. I just kind of let it go. And then my best friend called me and he goes, "Wow, that's amazing. Like, thank you for doing that." And then it just cascaded on. And I realized that as I was willing to be vulnerable and share those parts of me, then other people were healing through that sharing.
Absolutely, because if it comes from a place, any art or sharing has ability to be transformational if you transmute something while doing it.
Yes, that's the magic. It's the magic. It's doing it while doing it in action. Place.
That's the biggest gift you can do. If you do it from memory, once have the same effect. But if you actually put yourself there to do it, and people can witness that, it automatically activates the same thing within them.
So I went on a live every day or 5 days a week for 2 years, and it was like 400 plus episodes, and I talked about everything and help people. You know, I bring them up, what's your issue physically, emotionally, whatever, and I help them, and then I would share my story through it. That's literally what became the worldwide organization. That because I was not from a victim point of view, from an open point of view. I wanted to share everything that I had felt wrong about, or because shame is not like the difference between shame and guilt is guilt I did something wrong. Shame, I am wrong because I did something, you know, and it's very, very different. And things that I felt wrong for being or doing in my life, I wove through those lives, and it changed me. It really was the most powerful practice that I could have had.
It is, and actually the studies, they did psychological studies where they discovered that what brings the most aliveness, the feeling of being alive, it's saying the truth.
Yeah.
It really just really saying your truth.
So why is it so hard for people to do it?
My gosh, because we are afraid. We are afraid for rejection. We're afraid to be abandoned, to be judged. And when you think about that, how many times we filter and change what we say just because we want to feel safe. It comes down to feeling safe. I will say what I think you want to hear so that you won't reject me, so that I can feel safe. And it's an agreement, unspoken agreement we do, right? But what rejection really is, if you change perception a definition of rejection, we believe rejection is someone doesn't love us or want us or like us anymore, and therefore they push us away. But what if it's our field pushing that person away because that person is no longer compatible? Right?
Yeah, I can even say today that some of the things that hurt me the most, that I feel still, like I get a lot. I mean, I'm online, public figure. People say stuff about me all the time. And I used to, when they would say it online, I'd get online and try and negotiate and talk and give other points of view. And I found out none of that works. So I just stopped. You say whatever you want to say, and I don't even respond. But even today, when somebody doesn't like me, and it's visible that they don't like me, I feel it. And I work through that. That's one of those moments that I still work through. And if they don't agree with me, I don't give a shit, literally. But if they don't like me, then that's the one that I still work myself through. And I find myself, I can tell that somebody doesn't like me, and like, how do I deal with that? And it's this weird, awkward social situation. Like, I was at an event the other night, and one guy, we did something, and one guy didn't participate. And I thought, that was the weirdest thing that somebody wouldn't do that, to participate. And then it actually had my attention for a little bit. And I thought about it a little bit. And then I found out later on he was just drunk. It just wasn't me. But it was still in me to feel that. And I dive right into it. Like, I go right into it, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm looking to transmute that because it's still a part of me.
And I think everyone can relate to that, because we all to a certain degree are afraid of rejection, right? But I would love to comment on what you said, and and especially with your visibility, of course there will be people who will not like you, and rejection will not resonate. But I feel like, when you become a teacher, what I learned for myself is like I had to become comfortable with being the destroyer, being the one who triggered, being the one who brings the discomfort. And I realized, gosh, I didn't realize this was part of the package. Like, I signed up for the good stuff, but that was part of the package. And now almost, at my retreats, I'm like, I am going to trigger you. There will be a point you will hate me in that process. And I invite you to explore that, because most of the time people just project onto you, right? Where triggers are coming from, why their reaction is so strong. Not because you are who you are, it's because it links to something from their past that you remind them of.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's something that hasn't been resolved for them. And they create the same association. So the same emotional reaction is activated, and projection onto you for being the trigger.
Projection is like the co-founders like Jason, Isha, Cynthia, Anela, we're very used to people projecting us because we're in a spiritual business, and around us are transformational situations 24/7.
All the time.
Yeah, it's like it's in your face all the time, and it brings up all these emotions with people, and they're not aware that they're having the emotions. That's the biggest part, is they are not aware that they're in it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't when I started either. Like, I started doing this in the clinic, and I wasn't aware I was in it. Like, I remember we had a rule after I got out of treatment that that my wife, she could talk to me, but nothing controversial, nothing conflicting. Like, for an hour and a half, I needed that space to clear, because I wasn't acting in what I thought was myself. I would blow up and get angry, and rage would come out. And because I didn't realize at that time that I was processing all the emotions for the people that I was working with, which they were projecting on me. Yeah. That was a really big learning lesson for me. So I had a rule to protect myself in the environment, and protect her and protect us. But over time, I realized that was me. And I learned I learned that I was in that position. Kind of like I say to people, if you're first time you drink, you don't know you're drunk. You just start acting stupid. After you drink every day for like 3 to 6 months, you know, and you can kind of regulate yourself within that stupidity, right? That's what happens when people come around this transformation. They act drunk and they don't even know they're acting drunk. And you must get that a lot yourself.
Yes, absolutely. But what actually is coming through that I really want to share, that I think can be very, very helpful to people and to you as well, is that judgment is pure energy. It's coin.
Yes.
It's people paying you coins, literally. If you do reject that, you don't claim the energy that is coming your way. And so you can actually create a filter that you command all the energy from the judgment from other people to directly charge the success of your company, your health, your prosperity, your well-being, whatever that is. You can actually create a filter that will change, neutralize it, and so that you receive that energy, but it's automatically transmuted into your benefit.
In the middle of all these great conversations, sometimes you still need to take a minute to stop and breathe. Let's do that together. We're going to breathe 3 times through the mouth and 3 times through the nose. This is going to activate and rebalance your parasympathetic nervous system so you can absorb more. Breathe in with me through your mouth. 2. 3. Now 3 breaths through the nose. 2. 3. Now with that simple 6-breath reset, you can go back and enjoy more content. I do that, but I used to do it, and in the less mature version of me, I would do that and I would translate, and I'll show them I can do it this way. So I'd use anger, so I translate to anger, then use it.
Yes.
And then there was the better way for me to do it was to take the judgment and then translate that into intention. So I translate it into intention, which I use to charge my actions.
Yeah. If there's anything you try to create, I try to really send all of that into that one intention and see what happens.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because it's a lot of energy. And when you protection, again, it's a waste of your vital energy.
Protection is the biggest waste of energy.
To hold something back.
Yeah, yeah. What we resist persists.
Exactly.
Listen, I did this a lot. I protected. Protection is the one thing that drains me more than anything.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to protect, I got more to protect against.
Absolutely. And it's really a waste of energy. And when you're in a fight with someone, you actually want to take that energy, but leave the mindset. So you said, thank you for the energy. I leave you with the mindset. I leave you with your story. You absorb that energy. And oftentimes the person suddenly becomes peaceful because you took that energy. You took that charge.
I find, by the way, the astrological sign that does that very well is Aquarius. Aquarius is, you can yell at them, they'll just stand there. They'll take it all in, and they have no physical charge. They're not charged by that emotion.
That's fascinating.
And that's why Aquariuses are community builders.
Wow.
And one of my partners, Jason, he is a Sagittarius like me, but he has tons of Pisces and Aquarius. So people just yell at him. He just stone cold. It's almost like he didn't hear you. And then their energy just starts dying.
Yeah, because there is no fight of that energy, right? The fight continues when we try to cancel someone's energy. So the energies clash it against another energy. But when it's not there, when you just absorb it, the person stays drained.
So one of the practices I do personally, I started off with was when I work on people, I feel anger come up. And at first it's like their anger. And I realized actually it's my anger meeting theirs. So I would say, thank you, anger. Thank you for being here. Show me what you want me to see. The anger would come down, and then I would have my eyes open. Or thank you, sadness. Thank you, grief. That was my translation practice for 10 years while I was in clinic. And it allowed me to move and then see the opportunity of it. That was one of my tricks.
It's great to, often there is a message which, more you start to listen to the body, more those messages become clearer and clearer. When I have releases of very strong emotions, I usually can see with my the eyes of my mind exactly what age, what was the situation,
Yes.
and even what I wanted to say that I didn't say. So all these words, often nasty words, wants to come up because that is not expressed sort of anger that, you just numbed basically inside of yourself. And so it's so beautiful to watch that and to let the story be seen, let the story be heard, and then sort of deal with the energy without the story. Because it's almost like, for me, it's a one step to hear it, to see it, to feel it fully. And then the next step will be, okay, now we have this energy ball, what are we going to do with that? Right?
That's the key point. It's like, take the details and facts away. Let's deal with the energy. And then we can go back to the details and facts, because the energy clouds the ability to see the true intention. I mean, I've done this myself. I've been in my head, I feel something, and I only see it one way, and I can't see it another way. And it took a lot of practice to be able to see through that energy.
In Qigong practice, they believe that you don't really have to even understand the story when you release the energy, right?
Yes.
They will go with the consciousness of their mind into the point of, let's say, stuck energy when something feels heavy, right in the middle of it, and they will start to expand it, make it bigger, make it louder, so that it's fully felt, it's fully seen. And the more you do it, more the density changes, and it starts to slowly dissolve in the wholeness of who you are. And I've seen, with that technique, I've seen people coming from addiction of 20 years with one session, zero addiction, because there was one blocked energy sort of feeding that hunger that was released, that was felt, that was experienced, and that was it. So powerful.
So now you've gone from all this corporate, you've been a creative director and artist, you still are directing and you're still an artist, and you've been sharing this and helping, is it mostly women that you work with?
Both.
Okay.
Both, but we are in the process. So I'm having...
You got something new coming up.
Yes, we are having something new coming that is only for women, which is very exciting. But I can speak about this a little bit. Right now, it's lots of teaching, online, offline, my retreats, books, lectures, and then we are also building a project of creating a platform for basically emotional and physical regulation for women, and that will be a physical place. That will be like almost wellness social club for women. That will have all the healing modalities combined with rejuvenation and longevity practices, and then clinic with urogenital therapy, ozone therapy, etc. And that then will as well become in-app for women with all sort of different modalities and practices to support that. And I mean, the project has lots of ideas, but cookbooks and also with a special diets around menstruation and cycle, etc. And I think there's a lot of ideas, but we are right at the beginning of it. So
I'm always so jealous. It's even like when we go for shoes, like our partner, Vivo Barefoot, one of our partners, I look at it and go, the women's shoes are so cool. How come I don't get the women's shoes? I mean, that sounds really, really cool, but it is. And the guy's version of that is pretty pathetic these days. Not quite yet there. Because there's this whole masculinity thing that that men, especially young men, are trying to go through, and they feel they have to be more masculine. And I'm like, my answer was to actually be more feminine.
Absolutely.
And as I became more feminine and more accepting and more opening, my masculinity actually started to show. I don't think guys are quite there yet. There are people, but generally as a society, we're not quite there yet. But one thing I've noticed over the years, since we have 75% plus female audience, even when I started the clinic with my wife in Venice, California, it was always women first, and then a year or two later, the guys would start to come. And then we would change the therapies and would change into, they're always more softening, less mechanical, more open. And then it would be women again, and then men, and then women again and men. And we've gone through this version now 6 times in the life cycle of HumanGarage, from clinic to movement. And what I am excited about, honestly, though, is this dissolving, in some places, the dissolving between the masculine and the feminine. We are designed to work together. And but there has been so much opposition to this, like men are wrong, women are wrong, or this, that, and everything I do is to pull these things together.
I fully resonate.
But you have to do what you're doing first, because that sets the stage right now for this to start showing up for the masculine energy.
Completely. And I come from, actually, all of my retreats was 50-50. And I always actually refused to do only female retreat because I love the blend and I love working with men. So I had quite high, actually, men audience for what I do, interestingly. But for some reason, again, Universe Life, all the invitation I was receiving, please, can you teach at the woman retreat? Please, a woman project, this project, and it's sort of because it's, for me, it becomes way more personal.
Well, I feel, knowing you and getting to know you, that's important, because you've come from a very masculine dominant energy as a woman, and you've been moving to this softer place. So
100%.
So I see that as just leading women to where you're at. I mean, you have a really great acceptance of things that are going on around you, and I do feel that more women can follow your direction and what you're doing, and they would be better for it too.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I just really feel it will be, my intuition is telling me it's going to be my next transformation as well. So I have to do it for myself as well, which is, it's almost like another level of something. But quite frankly, I have no idea what will be on the other side. But working with women for me was more uncomfortable than working with men and women, and therefore I know this is the right path.
Yeah, I have. Like literally, I have all women around me, so I understand that. I understand that it's the polarization of society that's got masculine and feminine roles confused, and what's inside us. I wrote a piece years ago as part of my transition and understanding, and I wrote about the masculine and feminine inside me, and the only thing that separated them was judgment.
Yes.
And when I removed the judgment, it was okay. It's super. I'm super excited to get to know you better.
Likewise.
I think that this is going to spawn into a new story for us.
Absolutely.
Somewhere along the line.
Yes, I will.
And I'm really excited about what you're doing. Where do people find you and what you're doing, and what you're doing now, or where you're going?
People can find me on my Instagram, on my website, DorotaStanczyk.com, Instagram, Dorota Stanczyk Art. I have regular online events, retreats. There is one retreat coming up in November that I'm doing in Bali, next one in Africa, next April. So there's always some things going on that are really, really exciting when people can really master those techniques I'm talking about. My whole goal is to really remove this suffering from transformation. And so if people can get more equipped sort of with how to move through life and more effortlessly, that will be, for me, really, really incredible thing to help people with. And so please reach out to anyone who wants to connect and who wants to learn more, and hopefully...
One last thing.
Yes.
What's one thing that people don't know about you that you want them to know?
That's a hard one. Because I'm like
you're
open
open
book.
book.
I'm like open book, yes. What people don't know. Oh, Gary, this is a hard one.
Tough question, right?
Let me feel into it. Let me just feel into it. Yeah, I think what comes up is it's very personal that like my strongest probably gift is the clairsentience. I really feel. I mean, I don't know how, different people feel in the room, but I feel very specific informations about people. And oftentimes it can be very overwhelming. And so I actually am, it's hard for me to be social sometimes.
Sure.
And so people
And you are social.
perceive me as very social, extroverted person, bubbly, but it's lots of information for me every time I put myself in those kind of events, etc. So when you will meet me, people often actually might find me distance, or there's some sort of like not easy, let's say, to go deep right away, but that's because I don't want to read their field right away.
Yeah, so I would say that it takes a minute, because once you commit to somebody energetically, you're all in.
Totally.
And
Totally.
another part too, I would say, is even though you do, you don't like to accept help.
Say it again.
Even though you do, you don't necessarily like to accept help.
Accept
Help.
Oh, that is the hard one.
Yeah, so that's what I intuitively was feeling with you.
Yes, it's a big one.
And by the way, I'm the same way, so.
Yes. But that is a big one, and that is work in progress, for sure.
I'm working in progress too.
It's very hard for me to ask for it,
Yeah.
like to even verbalize what I need. I'm just like, it's gonna come, I'm gonna,
Gil's been working on me.
Guilt is so good at that, no?
Gil, yeah. Asking for what you need.
Oh,
my goodness.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
This was incredible. Such a
was.
beautiful conversation. I'm very, very grateful for this connection.
Yeah, and I can't wait till next time.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this content, follow us on social media channels, the Human Garage Experience, Apple, Spotify, and all other channels. We're on a mission to inspire 1 billion people worldwide, and the way that you participate is by liking, subscribing, and sharing our content. Every share that you take brings us one step closer to that billion people. This has been a fantastic episode. We enjoyed presenting it to you. Be a part of this worldwide revolution and share it now.